For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Wow, it's going to be May. I don't have a soundbite for that. I was going to cue something up, but I thought that's too much work. The joke is already... May the 5th be with you, though. That's always my joke, right? People do May the 4th be with you. I always post a joke the next day. May the 5th. Anyway, it's the 3rd, so that doesn't even really matter. I'm clearly not a comedian, but you know who is Kathy Griffin. She's joining me on the show a little bit later, and I hope you will tune in for that because she's making her return to the comedy stage. And she's swinging through my neck of the woods, sort of ish, Canada. Neck of the woods adjacent. We're off to a great start today, aren't we? I've got to tell you, first of all, let me be clear. I've been in broadcasting for a very long time. I know it doesn't seem that way just by this intro, but I'm of the generation where we would tape things out of sequence. I think I've talked about it on the show where when I signed off from my 15th anniversary of Top of the Charts, our syndicated Top 40 show, the last segment that aired was me center stage at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. But when we were there taping the tourism programming and the big finale, that actually came in the middle of our trip. So if I was there, I think I was there Monday to Thursday is what I was there. And we taped the Opry thing on a Wednesday afternoon. So it's really funny because that's just how you just become accustomed to that. Okay, we tape things out of order. We tape them as they're scheduled and then we assemble it later. Like it's very different. So if I'm pulling back the curtain on this, my chat with Kathy Griffin was taped a couple of weeks ago. And then we are now dropping it into the show that's airing this week. But I just woke up from a nap, okay? So let me tell you, you're listening to this hopefully Friday morning. It's Thursday evening, so the night before you're listening to this upload, and I had a nap for about a good 2 hours on the couch. For some reason, there's some days where at like 6:30, I'm just then out for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it feels really good. Now, I've also told you before that my husband and I don't wake up until 10:30, 11, maybe 11:30, sometimes even noon. And it was a rainy day today, so we actually stayed in bed till about noon. We thought, we're not going to walk the dogs, we don't have to go anywhere, we don't have to do anything. Let's just chill out here. And I do love a nice cool morning, so when the windows were open and it was kind of a nice cool breeze, like there's just something I like about that. I like waking up to a nice rainy day. I hate it, especially in the summer, when you wake up at 5 in the morning and the sun is out and the birds are, and it's like, it's too fucking early. I'm not doing this. So a nice gloomy, cloudy, rainy day, I enjoy, and that's what we had today. So I had a nap, and that's now just kind of thrown me off my game. Not that I really have a game anymore, but that explains the introduction there. Okay, so and also too, by the way, do you ever have one of those days where you just start to type? So I was going to make notes on the computer screen here just before we started the show, and it's almost like I was having a stroke or I was completely dyslexic because the letters were just coming out. We taped our celebrity headline show that it's entertainmentwrapup.com. We taped that the night before. So I had just done that, and I was adding some notes. We talked about Britney Spears and a couple other things, and everything that I was typing was just wrong. And so at some point you kind of sit there and go, should I just wing it and not even make notes and type stuff? Because it's almost taking longer now to go back. I can do it in one shot, right? And then we're good to go. But whatever. Anyway, so we're going to do a break and we're going to hear from Kathy Griffin, who is taking over Canada next week on The Scribble right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
Well, I'm one of her gays, and she's one of my heroes. We've got Kathy Griffin on the line to talk about her life on the PTSD list. Hello, my gorgeous hag. How are you?
Hello, I am your hag now and forever, proudly so. I am very excited to be coming to Canada once again, where you people never canceled me. Not for a minute.
No, it's amazing. Now, I mean, I've got to ask you, though, how closely are you following this hush money trial? You're familiar with Donald Trump, right? Maybe I should start there.
I have heard of him. And I have had his held in effigy, which I can't say that about a lot of people.
No.
Really can only say that about him. I've also known him, by the way, for decades, which a lot of people don't know. But I would run into him at the opening of an envelope, often in New York. But all those years that I was on My Life on the D-List, which is now streaming on Peacock, I'm very excited to say.
Yes.
For the first time, it's been nowhere to be found, nowhere, and so you can catch up on it for all those nostalgic, fun reasons. But when I was doing My Life on the D-List, I would run into Trump because that's an NBC show. The Apprentice was an NBC show, and it was not uncommon for any actor in Hollywood to run into Trump. So he was quite well known as a buffoon, but I would say I only thought he was a harmless buffoon at that time. And of course, if you ever told me he would be president, I would have laughed in your face and said, don't worry, if he ever becomes president, I'll hold his head up in effigy.
Wow. I mean, just think about, you had this comedic idea, right, of doing the mask, holding it up, thinking that it was going to be hilarious, and how it went oh so wrong.
Oh, thinking everybody would have my back. Because I thought it was 2017, he was already in office, and I thought, okay, people are really getting how dangerous he is. This guy wants to be an authoritarian dictator. Mm-hmm. And so I thought I would take this picture. First of all, the photographer gave it to TMZ of all places, which is just insanity because TMZ is very much in bed with Trump and they run cover for Trump a lot. And so that's one of the ways it went sideways. But I also thought people would have my back and be like, yeah, good for you. Yeah, make that statement, girl. Go on. And of course the gays did. I'm not going to lie. The gays had my back, but the power gays turned on me. And the rest of my own industry turned on me. And so now, nearly 7 years later, to be going on my first tour since the photo, and to be having My Life on the D-List finally available and streaming, it feels like, dare I say, I might be back.
I think so. Okay, so you mentioned the power gays. Let me go there because, those bitches, Anderson and Andy. What happened? You had great relationships with the two of them. Where are you at now?
Well, I don't know because now they do New Year's Eve, and it used to be Anderson and me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can see with your own eyes. My guess is maybe Anderson wanted Andy to do it, the last couple of years, and I don't really know. But remember, I was banned from CNN by the head of the network, and I'm still banned as far as I know. And so all I know is I wasn't part of those discussions, so nobody clued me in on what the plan was. And so, I think the reaction to the photo, drilling all the way down to the CNN stuff, was really BS. I mean, to this day, I look back on the reaction to a picture taken by a D-list comedian, a self-proclaimed D-list comedian, with, look, let's face it, my reach compared to a Dave Chappelle, my reach is small. You know what I mean? And yet they chose to take that photo, amplify it. This came directly from the White House, which feels weird to say to this day, because I get to be on tour and come to Canada, and yet the guy that I was making fun of is sitting in a criminal court as we speak, as a defendant. So I just have to accept that that's where we were, that's where I am now, on with the show, and I'll tell you something, in my new show, I don't even mention Trump.
Wow, I was going to ask you, do you change it up? So when you do something in Canada, do you go harder on politics, or you keep it the same act?
Well, I go city by city. So depending on where I'm playing, even in Canada, I'll do local material, and I'll make fun of you guys right to your faces. And as far as going hard politically, if Trump does something particularly egregious that day, I was on stage just 2 nights ago, and I did, of course, do a couple of minutes on Trump, sitting there farting in criminal court, which is just comedy gold. Comedy gold. Because, out of all the stuff that people are writing about him, all he really cares about is that people caught him farting. That's just funny, so I mention that. But then I move on to whatever's going on in the news, whatever celebrity run-ins I've had. I've got some kind of anchor, I call them my anchor stories, that I tell every show. Sometimes I don't get to all of them, and I do a full 2 hours just by myself. I don't have an opening act, so don't be late to the show. I get right into it, people. I take no prisoners.
Let's just, one more thing about the Trump thing, and then we'll move on. You've talked about how the Secret Service, interviewed you, the no-fly list. At any point, though, did somebody go and say, we get it, but we just have to do this? You're Kathy Griffin, it's a joke, or were they just serious the entire time?
No, they were real serious. Remember, I got it more than anybody in entertainment. A couple other entertainers got phone calls from the Secret Service. Mine was the only full investigation. I was put on the no-fly list. I was put on the Interpol list. I was stopped at every airport, detained, even in America. And when I went overseas, I was stopped too. And I was investigated fully, and I was interrogated under oath. So no, nobody was laughing. They all took it very seriously. And once again, to this day, I can't believe that. I can't believe that nobody in the chain of command just either stopped this or, like you said, pulled me aside and gave me a little wink we know this is BS. Mm-hmm. But, there's a lot of Trumpers in government. It's not a bunch of liberals running the federal government. That's what's funny about even thinking that somebody was going to pull me aside and be like, okay, Kath, I get it. No. A third of our voting public is still somehow with this guy. I can't explain it. It's like a cult, but as far as I'm concerned, they're like cult members, and they're in, and I'm just out there trying to find the people who aren't in the cult, and certainly in Canada.
And I think that's...
although I will be making fun of the trucker convoy.
Oh, absolutely. But I think that's what's different about the two countries, and also just in life in general. We're in this society where we don't want to be told what to do.
I have dogs, and I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I got 2 of them as well.
And they're all going crazy.
You mentioned the truckers. You mentioned the truckers. They're pissed off about that. But that's what's interesting, though, is that we live in this society where, you're not going to tell me what to do, I'm going to do what I want, and then you have a politician who says, do this, and people jump. Like, that's just what's so bizarre about the whole thing.
I know, but these people don't realize what a fascistic society would really look like, and nobody, like, that's why I laugh at that one flag, don't tread on me. Who the hell is treading on you? Well, in what world do you live in where you think you don't have rights and freedoms? And if you really feel this way, go live in an actual fascist country for 1 month and see how much you're going to be running back here, for your freedoms and your civil rights. So it's all manufactured. It's all BS. It's all stuff that Trump feeds them. But, look, we're living in a world without a lot of real news where people use secondaries and tertiaries, and people believe the blogosphere, and the Trumpers all think the New York Times is propaganda. I mean, it's crazy. I'm 63. I've been around forever. And people think the New York Times is a propaganda paper. It's like, no, go to communist China and actually see what a propaganda paper looks like. Yeah. And then try to read an alternate paper and see if you don't go to jail. So it's all madness.
And I love, though, through all of this, you celebrate when you've been canceled, when you've been banned. You talk about CNN. I know you wear it as a badge of honor. You talked about how you weren't welcome on The View, as like it's an achievement almost. And it's become a weird show, first of all, now, where they read questions off of cards like they've never heard of you before. So where are you still banned? You were on The View. I saw that.
I'm unbanned from The View, thank goodness. I don't know where I'm banned or unbanned, because I will tell you, they don't like to come out and say it. Like, right. They don't like to go, we're banning her. They usually just go, oh, we don't have anything available at this time.
Right.
And then it just lasts for 10 years.
Yeah, it's just an unsaid thing. So,
right.
You've got the dates in Canada. Let's talk about those. You've got Ottawa on May 7th, North York on the 8th, and London on the 9th. I mean, we've talked about the difference between the countries and the reactions. I mean, Canadians love you. Where else are you loved in this world, Kathy? Everywhere but maybe some places in the United States? Where's your favorite country to go?
Well, first of all, honestly, it is Canada, because you guys are so smart and no BS, and you laugh at yourselves and you laugh at everything. So I've always done really well in Canada, and the other one is Australia. Australians are similar to Canadians in that they're no bullshit, and they have an expression there, they like you to take the piss out of things. Right. And I am a professional taker of the pisser out of things, because I don't really look, in this new show, I talk about cancer, I talk about my suicide attempt, I talk about pill addiction, and I make it all funny, because everyone's been affected by addiction in some way. Everyone's been affected by cancer in some way. And also, a lot of the people that come to my shows, they know. They've either read about my cancer, or they maybe heard me on a talk show and know that my voice is a little bit altered. Mm-hmm. And so, my peeps are here. And I am very proud to say I get a ton of repeat business because I change up my materials so much that if you came to see me the last tour, you can come again, and it's all new 2 hours. In fact, if you came to see me 6 months ago, it's going to be an all new 2 hours. I just love switching it up and improvising.
And finally, I have to ask you, though, I mean, you were going through, it really is a laundry list of traumas in terms of, as you said, the cancer, your mom, the suicide thing, the pills. I mean, at some point, did you just go and say, what's next? Let me have it. Bring it on.
Yeah. And then there would be something next.
Right.
Like, I get sober from pills, and I'm like, what's next? Boom, lung cancer, and I never even smoked. All right, there's a certain comedy in that. There's a certain, typical. And then, look, I filed for divorce 4 months ago. I didn't think I'd be 63 and divorced. I thought I was going to be with this guy forever. So I have some funny stories about leaning on my girlfriends and my gay friends at this time, and just certain conversations you have that are just funny. Or someone says one funny thing, and I go, okay, that's in the act. That's fair game. I love working like that, and it's honestly the only way I know how to work is by taking something that's real in my life and spinning it and making it funny. And look, If the audience doesn't laugh, I move on to the next thing. I am on the ride with them. And some audiences want to be political, and some want to be more celebrity-oriented. Some of them like the PTSD stuff. And we'll go wherever the audience wants to go.
All right, and you're going all over the place because I know the tour dates are on your website. Once again, she's going to be in Ottawa, North York, and London. For our Canadian friends, her life on the PTSD list. Kathy Griffin, always a pleasure to hear from you. I love that voice no matter how you sound.
Oh, Jeremy, that's what I'm counting on. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, and best of luck in the tour. Thank you so much.
All right, honey, have a good one.
If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more. Rest assured, Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
JB here, back on The Scribble in our final remaining moments. First of all, Kathy Griffin is great. I love her. And I could chat with her for... Hold on a second. Did they just... Oh, we have 8 minutes? All right. Well, whatever. Going back to that thing I said at the beginning where it's like, I'm a seasoned broadcaster. I've been doing this so long. We have 8 minutes left. But anyway, let me just say about Kathy. She's one of those comedians, and we've had a bunch of them on the radio with me over the years. Margaret Cho and Russell Peters and Howie Mandel. And just I can't even think of all of them because there's just so many. Oh, Bob Saget was another great guy that we had. We were supposed to, and what's happened, and the reason why I'm naming these ones is because they stick out in my mind for one very good reason. They were so much fun to talk to. And when we were doing radio segments, our schedule was, your radio show, you kind of have to keep things tight, right? Especially on a music show where you've got to play songs, you've got to get in commercials, you've got to, do whatever. And so we would always have these interviews scheduled for either 6 to 8 minutes. And you'd be surprised, and I always challenge people when they go and say, oh, you just sit and talk to celebrities for... I want you to try having a conversation with somebody you do not know for 8 minutes straight, okay? You can't, and you've got to do it like you're on the air. It's not just, you can't have these dead air silence kind of things. You have to have, you keep it going for 8 minutes. Even do it with somebody that you know. Everybody's a podcaster nowadays, and it's funny because I listen to them, and I don't normally listen to the amateur ones, but when I do, because I've had such a trained ear for radio and for audio editing, I can hear when there's edits. Like, I can hear when your sentences don't continue on from one to the next. Like, there's something was cut out. I can tell. And so that's where I would challenge people. 8 minutes straight of just conversation that it's going to be airing live as it's happening. There's no editing. There's no take-sees, back-sees. There's none of that crap. It's not as easy as you might think. And so there is a bit of a learning curve. But once you've done it, then it's fine. But for me, there were struggles many times on the radio where it could have been a guest, a celebrity that I've never even heard of, or when we were doing tourism program and the tourism board would set you up with somebody from an excursion or an activity. They might not be the best talker. Well, you got to pull it out of them. Those segments were shorter, though, so we only had to do maybe about 3 minutes or 4 minutes with them. But even then, that's an excruciatingly long period of time if the person is not a good talker. Now, when we would have celebrity guests, most of them have had media training, so they know how to do an interview, and they've done interviews, they do them all the time. And so, anyway, back to the whole thing about these comedians is, so when we've had, as I said, Margaret Cho, Russell Peters, Howie Mandel, Bob Saget, all of these were scheduled for about an 8-minute interview, and they all of them ran long. Bob Saget, I think, was probably one of the longest. Maybe she's been on a bunch of times. I think we ran almost like 30 minutes with Bob. And same kind of a thing. His comedy tour was coming through Canada. He was stopping in my hometown of Winnipeg. He had been there before. He had some great stories and jokes about it. And initially, he was really just coming on to promote. He was hosting, it was a late night. It was like America's Funniest Home Videos, but he was hosting a different kind of version of it. That's what we were meant to talk about. But somebody had said, like, oh, he's swinging through Winnipeg, and I'm in West Hollywood. But I said, oh, let's bring that up. And that added like another, 15 minutes or so. And then when the segment actually wrapped, you only heard a brief portion of that on the air. We sat and chatted for I don't even know how long. And I love those kinds of chats because there's a couple of different ways that these things happen. Either we call the celeb directly, or the publicist calls us. We get put on hold. The publicist calls the celeb, gets them on, then conferences us all in. So, publicist mutes themselves, is still on the line listening. Or the celeb just calls directly. With Bob Saget, he called directly. We didn't have anybody interrupting because sometimes the publicist is still on the line to go and say like, oh, we got to wrap this up now. Like they'll interrupt. They really will. They'll give you time. They'll wait till they don't just come mid-sentence, but they will. And sometimes you can even hear them unmute. So you're like, oh, here we go. But as an interviewer, if it's a great conversation, you try to get as long as you can with the person, of course. But with the comedians, it's always been great because I think at the beginning, and I remember actually the very first time that Margaret was on with us, I actually left the interview thinking, I didn't like that. She wasn't funny. Like she wasn't on. And then I realized, well, she's not on stage. She's not performing right now. She's talking to me as Margaret Cho. And that's where I was like, oh, I've got to take a step back here because that's a character on stage for some of these people. Right? That's not necessarily who she is. And so, and then people see these interviews on the late night talk shows. And again, what you don't realize in the broadcasting world is they have a pre-interview with somebody, with a producer. And there's even like rehearsals. The hosts get, one-liners or something to tee the person up and set them up. We actually said that with Kathy beforehand. Does she have specific things that she wants teed up that I'll set her up for jokes or I'll set the story up for her? And it was like, no, just talk to her. Just talk whatever. And that's what's really refreshing is when you can have those conversations. They're conversations. They're not this volleying back and forth of question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. We just are talking to each other. So those are the kinds of interviews that I've always appreciated doing. And so it was great to hear from her. Once again, depending on when you are listening to this, Kathy will be performing throughout Ontario. And those dates I mentioned in the show, but you can always go to her website to check those out for more. So there we go. I haven't done many celebrity interviews in a while. Actually, somebody checked and looked, and it was almost, was it last June? So we're almost going on 10, 11 months of having not really done any celebrity interviews on the radio. I kind of miss it, but I kind of don't. I mentioned about that 15 years signing off from the Opry. It's really weird because you always hear about when people retire. Some people just are lost at that point. Like my mom had worked at a school for 30 some years, and that was kind of became her thing once her kids, right? Like me, my brothers and I grew up and moved out. She still had the kids at school. That was kind of her thing. And when she retired, I guess it's now 4 years, 3 or 4, 4 years ago, because I'm 3 years since I retired. And, for me, people would say, like, don't you miss doing the show? It was a big change, let me tell you. When you're hosting a show on 20 or 30 some stations for hundreds of thousands of people, as we were back then, and that's your routine. And for most of my adult life, you have to realize that I started hosting the show in my parents' basement. So my adult life from the time that I moved out was on the radio doing that show. So it was kind of a weird shift for me, but now, like I was saying earlier, I love sleeping in till 11 o'clock with my hot husband. We are just fine laying in bed, not getting out of bed, not going down the stairs. Even the dogs kind of realize, like, they know that even though we're moving and we might be awake, they know when it's actually time to, like, get rowdy and head down the stairs. They will wait. They don't go down the stairs without us. So anyway. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's been fun just to kind of ramble and hearing it back, that interview with Kathy. It took me back to a really fun time that I had with her. So my name is Jeremy Bradley. This is The Scribble. Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. My email address is live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some